All right, everyone, and welcome back again to Faith in Homebuying. Super excited again, like I always am when I have people on. And today is wonderful Stacey Kennon, and she's actually going to be talking today about, I think it's a pretty important topic just because I've ran into it with a lot of clients, but talking about the impact of having life insurance and also in our COVID or pandemic time and some pitfalls to look out for and then some useful information. So Stacey, say hello to everybody real quick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stacey Kennon. Nice to be speaking with you.
Awesome. And so, I mean, Stacey is a good resource of information. And I figured, again, one of the things that I'm I look out for the most, especially with those first home buyers, is what things to look out for when you first get a home. And because of where we're at right now in the world, it's one of those things that you have to be able to manage this stuff very well because anything can happen. Before we get into what we're going to discuss today, Stacey, real quickly, I always like to kind of open up with a little bit of activation. Usually it's through the Word of God or through it's just kind of inspirational, something throughout the week that has happened. But in this particular sense, on Sunday, we had a great word with regards to, it was in Luke 16:10, or kind of like Luke 16 pretty much, and just about being able to manage what you have been given. And I think it's just also too important to understand that, life and, when you have a family or when you're trying to set things up for your family, being able to manage the little that you have so that he can give you more is also important. The specific verse in Luke 16:10, where it says, "The one who manages the little he has been given with faithfulness and integrity will be promoted and trusted with greater responsibilities. But those who cheat with the little that they have been given will not be considered trustworthy to receive more." Yikes. If you have not handled the riches of this world with integrity, why should you be trusted with the eternal treasures of the spiritual world? Basically, get your house in order and get your stuff in order so that when it's time for God to bless you, or when it's time to actually have growth, whether it be in business, whether it be in your family, whether it be in your job, whether it be even in your work, it doesn't matter, your home, that you're preparing yourself. And so this is kind of what that discussion is today, just a candid look on what a first-time home buyer, or even homeowner too, but we'll start with the first-time home buyer, needs to look out for when they are, proceeding forward with purchasing a house. And so let's start with that. Like when someone gets into a home and they're thinking about starting a family, this may be the first time in their whole family lineage that they've actually gotten to home ownership. From a perspective with regards to a financial insurance person, what would be some of the steps that someone would need to take or should take or look into?
Well, definitely, Tamika, that's a great question. And first of all, congratulations to all the first-time home buyers.
Yes.
That's such an important step. And I just am elated when I hear young couples, just anyone buying a home. But when it comes to purchasing your home, you always want to ensure when it comes to insurance that you do have insurance. And insurance, it varies. For an example, if you just purchased a home in the Bay Area, your home could have been $500,000 or $1 million, depending on where it's located. And with that being said, if something was to happen to the breadwinner, the husband or the wife, whoever is bringing in the money, if they were in an accident, they passed away, will your family be left behind not able to pay those bills? And so it's real important that if you have insurance, and if that was the scenario, your husband, your wife passed away, your family is protected. You're able to pay out that mortgage you have. And so I always say it's important to be proactive instead of reactive, because when someone is reactive, that happens where I see on Facebook GoFundMe accounts. That's reactive, but be proactive. It makes a difference. It really does.
Exactly. And that makes a whole lot of sense. So say, for instance, someone, goes through a situation, and so how would they even get started with doing that? Is this something that you look at, before home ownership, and you get the process going, so it still falls under the home? What does that look like?
Yes, actually, on getting started, you don't have to wait to be a homeowner to get life insurance, because life insurance, you're protecting the ones that you love. And as I mentioned earlier, it's important that you're proactive by going through the steps. And essentially, you would work with a financial professional like myself. And what we would do is sit down together, come up with a strategy based on what your goals are. Because there are so many different plans that are out there. One, there's term insurance, there's permanent insurance, and some people don't know the difference between the two. And with that being said, whatever the goal is of that couple, that's what I would like to do, work with them. What are your plans? And when you do purchase that home, definitely you want to have enough insurance that's going to cover that home. Plus, if you have kids, another 5 to 10 years of savings, because, oh, how expensive it is out there, especially if those kids are going to go to college. You need funds. And where are those funds going to come from? If you have insurance, it would come from there because they're taking on the risk. And so, real important.
Exactly. And so since we touched on that, and because, I know a lot of people don't know, I myself, I've been thankful that, that's one of the things that we, husband and I, have done. It took us a little bit after buying the home, but, there's other little, safety measures that we've set in place. But someone that doesn't understand, what is term? What are those different types of insurance scenarios?
Yes, well, the two that I would like to mention is term as well as permanent insurance, because there's different types. But when it comes to term insurance, that essentially means your insurance is for a term. That contract could be 10 years, 15, 20, all the way up to 30 years. So for instance, if there is a 20-year-old, 30-year-old that's interested in purchasing term insurance, they could do that for 10 years. And they may think, okay, after 10 years or even before 10 years, I want to upgrade to a permanent policy. And typically with term insurance, it's much less expensive than permanent insurance. It's kind of the starter insurance. Mm-hmm. And it's just real important just at least to have something in place, because if something was to happen, you want to ensure that your funeral cost is taken care of.
Yeah, funeral cost, that's a huge
Yes, exactly. So term again.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And with term, of course, it's going to be less expensive. And after the end of the term, if you wanted to renew it, you can, but it's going to be more expensive because it's at the current age that you're trying to get the new contract. And when it comes to permanent insurance, that means you have insurance for the rest of your life. And as long as you're paying your premiums on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis, you want to ensure that's handled. But when it comes to permanent insurance, there are so many different ones that are out there. And one thing that I specialize in is cash accumulation in an insurance policy. Mm-hmm. And with that, you could use that money as a tax-free retirement. You can take money out, a loan or withdrawal tax-free. And it's like having your own family bank. Mm-hmm. Instead of going to your local bank, paying the high interest rate, right. Why not take money from your own bank and pay your own self back? And that's called an Index Universal Life Insurance Policy. It reminds me of a stairway to heaven. When you essentially look at it, it's a hybrid between fixed and variable. So it's not in the market, but it's mirroring the market. So the market goes up, you lock in your gains, goes up, you lock in your gains. So you never have the downside loss because everything is locked in. That's what I like to speak with my clients about, because it's all about knowing. Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power. Yeah. But if not applied, it's going by the wayside.
Exactly. Well, that's one of the things too. A lot of people think that, well, I got to make a whole lot of money in order to even make this, work. Like I have a little small life insurance with my job, or, maybe there's a certain automobile kind of insurance, that's attached to a credit union or whatever. Why wouldn't that be sufficient?
Yes. Well, great question, Tamika. When you have insurance on a job, that's really good. Typically on the job, it's term insurance. Mm. while you're going to be working at that
Right.
job. But if you were to get laid off or fired, you quit, that insurance does not go with you. And then what happens? You're left with no insurance. And then if that's the case and something happened, you have a family, your family is struggling if you don't have the means to pay for a funeral or to continue on in life. And again, term insurance, it's a starter insurance, but it's totally up to the individual, depending on what is your budget, what are your goals in life. And that's why I like to work together with the client. And it's really interesting because sometimes I speak with clients and they tell me they have insurance, but they don't know what type of insurance.
Yeah.
Is it term or is it permanent? And with that being said, if you don't know what you have, and it's time to use it, what do you do? So
Right.
it's good to speak with someone about it.
I think this is a great conversation I'm having with Stacey Kennon, and we're talking about just life insurance, and especially in this pandemic, why it's so important, not only just for first-time homebuyers or home ownership, but to kind of be a responsible steward of life and also your resources to come. So Stacey, we didn't give it in the first half, but why don't you let people, how would they be able to contact you if they had more information? Because we can only do so much in 30 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Actually, they can contact me directly by phone, and that's area code 510-693-3640.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll probably give that one more time at the end of the segment. But to top this off, to recap, from the last segment, we talked about, okay, what is, life insurance and like the kind of the overall view of what it is from term to permanent. Now, question for you. So say, for instance, inside of a home, and I have clients that have actually maybe gotten sick with COVID. And how does this affect someone if they are saying, now, I need life insurance now, but I had this pre-existing condition. How is this going to affect me?
Actually, that's a great question, especially with this pandemic. When it comes to COVID and life insurance, I just want to preface that being proactive, getting insurance now before something happens, that makes a big difference. But if someone has contacted COVID, they were positive and they weren't hospitalized, they had to quarantine themselves 14 days, retest, or whatever the case may be. In that case, yes, the insurance companies, yes, definitely, they will still work with the proposed insured about getting life insurance. But in that case, typically it's you have to wait about 30 days and at least 2 negative test results in that scenario. And then let's say someone was hospitalized for COVID, but they weren't on a ventilator or anything like that. There's more time that the insurance company would want to wait, like 60 days, and also negative test results. But if someone in the next stage, essentially, they were on a ventilator and they recovered, thank God. And when that happens, the insurance company will also still look at an individual that had COVID, but of course, they're going to look at, was anything impacted, with your organs or anything like that, because that doesn't mean you will not get insurance, but it may be a little bit more expensive because you have a pre-existing condition. And I just want to say, oftentimes people will say, I'm not going to go and get any insurance because I have a pre-existing condition. They may say, oh, I have diabetes, or I've had cancer before. No, don't think that. Insurance companies can still insure you. And sometimes it may be a little bit more expensive, but it doesn't hurt to try. Because with the application process, you just go through an application process, probably have to take a medical depending on the insurance amount. You take a medical, they come out, it's only about 30 minutes or less, take blood, urine, blood pressure, height, weight, and they're off.
Right.
And they wait for the results. And it goes to underwriting. Underwriting will determine, yes, we can approve this individual or not. And if they don't get approved as they were initially inputted in the application, it may be table rated. And that just essentially means it'll be a little bit more expensive because of that specific condition. So do not say, if I had COVID, I can't get insurance. Yes, you can still get insurance. So always speak with a professional and go through that process. So important.
Well, that's good to know, because I think a lot of people think that too, like, oh, why am I going to do even any type of life insurance? And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this show, like, just to at least give a high level, like, hey, look, there's too many people that are doing, these GoFundMe things. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. If you were to do this beforehand, like, for instance, now, anyone who is, if you're healthy, you don't have you may have some kind of pre-existing, but you don't have COVID, for instance, get tested, go through the process, figure out what it is, start yourself something, so that if should something happen, your family, your kids, just people aren't left kind of holding the bag. And I think that's just so important, that you're and a lot of times too, it can be a little bit of a burden, because a lot of times some people aren't prepared to, whether it be from your parents or you just other family members, they're not prepared. They're not prepared to handle it. They're not prepared to handle, oh no, I got into this house, now I have this huge mortgage. What am I going to do? With in proceeding forward. So it's not only just with yourself, I don't think, but it's actually looking out for everyone else around you.
Exactly. That is 100% true, Tamika. It's so important. Do you want to leave a legacy, or do you want to leave a liability? Yes. And that's so critical.
Yeah. Well, see, that right there, just imagine going through the whole process. And I have a lot of clients that went through the whole process of buying a home, money spent, money saved. Then all of a sudden, this leads us into our next discussion point, in talking about, how to protect that, not only just with your health and life insurance, but how do you protect your nest egg, which you just spent 20% getting into a home, or just, your bank account, and kind of in our last part of our discussion, how do you protect that? Like, are there systems in place, which I know that there are, and discuss those. Estate trust.
Okay, yes, definitely. And I always recommend, when I'm speaking with my clients, I check in. Do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Because it's so important when it comes to your last will and testament. That's going to let individuals know, based on your assets, who it's going to go to. Because as you are aware, when family members pass away, times are crazy.
Yep.
Everyone's stressed and arguments happen. So if you have something in place, that will make the big difference. But even when you have something in place, you have to ensure, Tamika, it's very descriptive.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. And sometimes I'll hear from families, my mom said I could have that diamond ring, or my dad said I could have the car. If it's not written out, someone will decide where it goes. And even when it comes to your will and testament, when it comes to that, also you look at, okay, do you have a medical directive? That's part of the will. If you're in the hospital and you're there, you can't make a decision.
Yeah.
Do I go on life support, or do I not want them to revive me?
Yeah.
So that's a decision you can make ahead of time, rather than your family saying, no, I don't want this to happen, or yes, I want that to happen.
Right.
And yes, in HIPAA authorization, the doctors can't release your information if there's no authorization. So that's also part of the will. And who's going to take care of your finances and your medicals if you don't have anyone appointed? That's very, very important. And then when it comes to home ownership, if you have a home, it's good that you have a trust. A lot of times, if you don't have a trust, your property could go into probate.
Probate, exactly.
And that is very expensive. Who wants to go through that, as opposed to just having some paperwork already in place and it's seamless?
And that's a judge deciding on what goes where. And
exactly.
Very easily, very quickly.
Yes, and even when it comes to kids, for instance, maybe you're a single parent or whatever the case may be. If you were to pass away, who are your kids going to go to? If you don't have nothing specified, what will happen? The judge will determine where your kids go. And typically the kid will go to the family member that has the most money.
Right.
But is that the person you wanted your child to be with?
Mhm.
So just put those papers in place. It makes a difference, and you don't have to worry about stressing.
No, I think this is again, and this is high level stuff. Only so much you can do in 30 minutes, right? But I think that even just to get planting the seed and the thought of, just like in Luke, when it says to manage your manage your affairs. If you get your affairs managed at a small amount, like it's just you and your nest egg, maybe it's just you and your husband. But if you expand, and as you expand, you continue to cover so that things for your children, all the wealth that you're trying to create with these, properties, these investments, and what you're doing can actually be saved. Because if you let the courts take care of it, or let other people kind of come and put their hands inside your stuff, everything that you built could easily be torn down in a matter of, seconds, days.
Exactly.
And I think this is why it's just so important. So again, Stacey, if someone actually needed to speak to you soon about this process, how again can they get in contact with you?
Yes, they can reach me directly by phone at 510-693-3640.
Great. And as you know, everybody, and again, thank you, Stacey, for this this talk. I think it's truly important. I really do hope people do reach out to you. I myself, again, husband and I getting our affairs in order, we know that is very important. But those on the call, again, I'm here for you. I can be reached at TamikaEllsworth.com, or my number, you can reach me directly, 408-561-7922. This is Faith in Homebuying. And honestly, I love equipping people of faith for the home buying process. And I'm so glad to have guests on like you, Stacey, that just make this time and this process great, because it's informative information and it's good information that everyone across the board needs to know. Thank you again. Hey, and audience, thank you again. And until next week, stay tuned and God bless.